All right, we're here brought to you today with Dr. Kyle and myself, Matty Big Chest, and we're sponsored. We are now sponsored officially by ViridianGlobal.com. Head on over there and buy a couple shirts and hoodies on me. I can tell you from personal experience that Viridian shirts are first class and they have the best designs in the business. No more overpaying for fantasy apparel. And, for first-time customers, use code MBC2020 to save 10% and tell them that Matty Big Chest sent you. I love their shirts. This one is one right here that I'm wearing, and fire Matt Patricia because he's been terrible. 2020 for the Lions has been 2020 for the world. Just a terrible disaster of just everything happening week to week, and it's just not fun. So that's the experience being a Lions fan. But I'll let you talk now. How was your week for fantasy and the injury status of Joe Burrow and other names?
Everything is goddamn up in the air right now. I made the mistake of looking to see what one of my fantasy matchup scores was, and it's really tight right now. And I basically have Jared Goff up 3 points against Leonard Fournette. Chris Godwin in PPR, man. It's going to be a rough one, so make sure I don't check Yahoo at all. Anyway, enough about that. Memphis and I just discussed. We did our big bet early this week because we want to enjoy our Wednesday nights with family and do Thanksgiving and Turkey Day, though he'll be back on Friday for, week 12.5 and the Propcast. It was a pretty good betting week, but, not a good week for our boy Joe Burrow, who was one of the top candidates for, Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, all that stuff. Took a bad hit to his knee. And we call that a valgus injury to his knee, and confirmed torn ACL and MCL and some other stuff. The other stuff is what I would really like to know, because an ACL at this point for younger guys is really not anything. It's only a matter of time. Like, look what Dalvin Cook and Cooper Kupp have done since theirs. Joe Burrow's still a baby, but if his meniscus got shredded up a little bit and that needs to be repaired, that's going to slow down his recovery, putting his week 1 start ability in jeopardy next year. If there's other things, the Jalen Smith injury of the Cowboys, that was a bad one where I believe he had nerve and blood vessel or vascular injury, and that took a very long time to come back to. It doesn't sound like that. It didn't look that bad. So hopefully it's just the ACL, the MCL, and then if it's the meniscus too, Burrow's going to be on crutches, because that, the silver lining there is if you're getting the ACL and the MCL repaired, that they don't have to, there's no timetable to try and, get the meniscus game ready any sooner. So you get to repair it instead of scoping it and preserve it and hopefully prevent any, knee replacements down the line. But that's, we're getting off topic. Bummer that Joe Burrow's gone down. That's a lot of fantasy teams. And the timing there is, I know in FFPC dynasty leagues, the trade deadline was noon this past Sunday. So all of a sudden, if you're a contender with Joe Burrow, and now you can't even make a move. So it's, I still wonder if that just feels like a too early of a trade deadline in dynasty. I feel like it should go right up until the dynasty playoffs. What do you think? That's reasonable, right?
I don't have trade deadlines on my leagues that I commission. I think that trade deadlines are kind of pointless.
Yeah.
And they hurt teams more because, if you want to sell for a championship, then go sell for a championship and overpay for some bad players that won't do much on your roster later down the line. But, there's another injury that people are going to be sad about. It's a fan favorite. It's Michael Pirine from the New York Jets. He left the game with an ankle injury and barely played in the second half. And then Ty Johnson, who could be a sneaky dynasty waiver ad, played 80% of the third downs in the first half. So, Ty Johnson's been given some third down work. That's pretty big. And he's got breakaway speed. He was drafted by the Detroit Lions and cut by the Detroit Lions. So expect maybe another breakout player from the Detroit Lions to come up from the Jets. Who knows? That's just a sneaky dynasty waiver ad for you guys right there. But what do you think? What do you think about LaMichael Pirine? He was kind of showing out before he got hurt.
Yeah, I liked what we were seeing from him, and the Jets are getting a chance to evaluate some of the younger talent. It's being called a high ankle sprain, which I would say puts this week and probably the following week in serious jeopardy. Especially, there's no reason for the Jets to trot anybody out too soon. He's a younger guy, so maybe that bodes well for him. I think we'll hear more as the week presses on, but I like the Ty Johnson take there, especially for that style of work in the backfield.
Ty Johnson in total had 14 of 43 snaps. So, he did okay for himself. So
that's good work. 30% of the snaps in relief. That's legit.
Yeah. And, the Jets are not a good team. They're not going to be running the ball much. So maybe if they have more third down work, he comes in, gets more targets. So we'll see with Ty Johnson, but he could be a good waiver wire ad. And another little waiver wire ad is from the Cleveland Browns, and he's a wide receiver. It's Ketterell Hodge. He started the season as a third wide receiver before missing like a month due to some long-term injury. And he's been used as Odell Beckham's replacement. So he's a little bit of a waiver wire pickup that many people don't know about. But he was either tied for the lead or led the Browns in targets, I think, this last week. So he's a little bit of an ad there for me. And
there was some Baker love there for him.
Baker likes to throw it to just random guys. He had it's Rashard Higgins one week, and then Hodge the other week, and then Jarvis Landry every week.
And then the other team every other week.
Yeah. And Austin Hooper and Harrison Bryant are Jekyll and Hyde. 1 week it's going to be Hooper, and then the other week it's Harrison Bryant. So you never know with them. Dallas Goedert had a really good week. He went off, and who else had a good week that I've been harping on is Mark Andrews. He went over 60 yards this week, but is that because Nick Boyle got hurt and is out for the year with an injury?
Perhaps. I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep an eye on this Bucs game too. God damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Boyle was getting some love from Lamar at times this season, and those targets in Baltimore are that much more valuable per target because the passing volume is so low there. So if Boyle was only averaging 3 targets a game, if all 3 of those are going to Andrews, he's probably seeing a 50 to 60% uptick in his per game target share.
Yeah, and what's going on with Hollywood Brown only getting 3 targets and not getting any receptions this week? He put up a donut for fantasy. What's going on?
That's a very good question. I have no idea. I mean, at least so I saw the Ravens play a bit in the beginning of the season, and it at least looked like Hollywood, he looks like he's running good routes. He's getting open, and Lamar is just missing passes. I don't know why he's not even getting targets. So I don't know how many routes he ran. He ran. Sorry, it's getting late here.
It's okay.
How many routes he ran, or what type of routes is he? Is he still the deep guy? And Lamar is afraid to throw it deep. I don't even know at this point, but he's basically useless. He's probably droppable in redraft if you haven't already. In Dynasty, I don't know what you're basically forced to hold him in hopes that the situation improves for him. But I don't know what narrative there could be for an improving situation for Hollywood at this point. Lamar seems to be who he is unless he takes a real big step forward in this upcoming offseason. Yeah, Des Bryant. Let's talk about him.
Des Bryant
had four targets, and did he have 4 receptions too?
I think he had 3 or 4. He caught 3 or 4 of the balls. He moved up to the wide receiver 3 on the depth chart. He is stepping up, man. Maybe it's time to go. Yeah, go throw up an X on the waiver wire and go get Des. He's probably available in most of your leagues because he's kind of old, but he's a good wide receiver still. Returning to action this week was Antonio Callaway from the Cleveland Browns, now on the Miami Dolphins. Didn't do much, but he was there. He's back.
Good for him. Good for him.
It's great. It's great news.
Not good for Tua. Or not good enough for Tua, but or Fitzy.
He played 8 snaps. Total of 65 total.
Okay. So monitor that one going forward.
Yep. Savannah Ahmed, you might want to temper expectations for him going forward because we have a man returning from injury. That's Miles Gaskin coming back next week. Is he not coming back next week?
No, he is. I'm just shaking my head because
Yeah.
the Bucks just tied it up with the Rams.
Oh, man. What happened? Brady?
Well, first what happened was Goff pulled the goof and threw in it.
Hmm.
The Rams are up 24-17. I don't know why you're doing anything that can. I don't. Yeah. So Goff interception and the Bucks just marched down the field 24-24. Rams are going to have the ball back with 3:53.
Yeah, this is live during the Monday Night Football game. We are bringing this to you guys live action. Savannah Ahmed, though, I would temper expectations going forward for him because Miles Gaskin is returning to that backfield. And, I think that he'll still see the second most snaps in that backfield, but it'll be down to like 17 snaps, which is what Patrick Laird is getting. And, you'll see Miles Gaskin get 43 snaps. So it'll just kind of flip-flop, go from Savannah Ahmed's role to the Patrick Laird role.
Yeah, and at this point, I don't even know if I want to touch that Dolphins offense.
No, you never know what's going to happen now because they pulled Tua and said that Fitzmagic was better. That just doesn't make sense.
Who said that? Because the
Brian Flores.
I thought he said that Tua was the starter going forward, but they just put Fitzmagic in that moment to see if it gave him a chance.
Which doesn't really make sense because if you're better players, Tua, then keep them in.
Yeah.
A good dynasty wide receiver that we saw this week who's blossoming is Michael Pittman Jr. He had a total of 67 snaps, and they played 83 offensive snaps total. He had, I believe, 80-something yards and a touchdown.
Yep.
Big week from Michael Pittman Jr. He is showing up for a rookie, and he's having a good season now that he's healthy, and Phillip Rivers is giving him the ball.
Yeah, he was coming off a pretty serious and scary at times injury with the compartment syndrome in his lower leg. And so I imagine after he came back, it probably still took him a game or two to get back to full speed. And these past 2 weeks, he's flashed against both the Titans and then the Packers. And that Colts team, that surprised me a bit. I thought if the Packers would get up in that game, that they would run away with it. But, I don't know if it was the Packers got too comfortable or their defense is really that bad, or Phillip Rivers just turned back the clock and was slinging it all over the field. Slinging is probably not the right term because whatever that throwing action is
it's
something
a hawk.
special.
It's a hawk.
It's a hawk. He was hucking it all over the field. But yeah, Pittman looks good. Another rookie. I bring them up in the same argument or in the same conversation because in my first dynasty league ever, Mims and Pittman are two of the rookie wide receivers that I've managed to get on my roster and was holding on for dear life for their breakout games at some point this year. And I feel like we've seen both of them. Mims, I think, had 4 for 70 something this week. Lots of downfield targets too. So that's air yards, they call those folks. I believe those are good.
And speaking of that game, the Green Bay Packers running backfield was a 50-50 split completely from Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, 30 snaps to each. I think that's a little interesting because I think Aaron Jones' volume has gone down as we've seen since he got COVID or whatever it was. But, since he's been back, he's not gotten the full load that he used to get. So maybe temper your expectations if you have Aaron Jones. Jonathan Taylor got 46 snaps of the targets. Of the total 83 snaps, he got 46, which is more than 50%. Seeing his usage go up against a Green Bay team that's not very good against the run, that's pretty good to see for Jonathan Taylor owners to finally see him have a nice day. Did he have a touchdown? I believe he did.
I'm pretty sure he did.
So, he had a good fantasy breakout game against the Green Bay Packers, which are ranked 31st in the NFL in rushing, and probably now 32nd after this last week. So, they're not doing great. Let's talk about the Detroit Lions and the Carolina Panthers.
Matt, what happened to your Lions this week?
PJ Walker
just do this
all
with the
over
shirt.
the Lions. Fire Patricia, he's a clown.
But was it
get rid of him?
Matt Rule was the coach when PJ Walker and Robbie Anderson were on Temple however many years ago. So that's a little bit of a reunion for them there. It makes sense as to
Mhm.
why he was, happy to go with PJ Walker for the week.
Yeah, the big winner this week was DJ Moore, seeing an increased snap share and target percentage from PJ Walker being the quarterback. He had 61 snaps of the 71 snaps. Robbie Anderson played 50 snaps of the 71 snaps, and Curtis Samuel played 48 of 71 snaps. So, it was pretty even, DJ Moore being the leading receiver on that team. But Curtis Samuel was a big winner in terms of the yards, taking it out. He had Curtis Samuel had a large touchdown. He ended up with 8 catches compared to Moore's 7 catches. So Curtis Samuel's starting to become this consistent starter that we haven't seen from him in the NFL. And, that's a big boost to him in value, I think, for Dynasty going forward.
Yeah, he's only in his he's a year older than DJ Moore, right? So this is his fourth year.
Fourth year.
Fourth year breakout's a thing, guys.
Mm-hmm. Especially for people who, he was injured his first season. He had an injury and it kept him out the whole year.
Yep.
But yeah, going on to the Lions, I think Kerryon Johnson was the replacement for DeAndre Swift. Didn't do much because, they were blown out. So there's no touchdowns for fantasy. Matt Stafford turned the ball over, put it on the ground a couple times. It was just a brutal game to watch, man. It was not fun. Nobody did a lot from the Lions besides the defense letting up a lot of points. So, Hawkinson did have over 60 yards, so that is something to note. Hawkinson's consistently being a tight end that can score 10 plus fantasy points in a tight end premium league. So it's nice to see Hawkinson continue to do what he does best, get 60 yards. That's all he needs.
Matt, I recently sold Hawkinson for Carson Wentz in a dynasty league. And when I say recently, it was like 4 weeks ago, but I don't know. I need to see. I've only seen trash out of Carson Wentz since that trade because I thought I was buying low and selling Hawk, not high, but yeah, getting a nice little return. He was like, I got him in like the 10th or 11th round of a startup this offseason. He went after Fant and Goddard. Like that was like that tier. And I was happy to get any of those 3 guys. And so I was like, all right, I feel like this is a pretty solid flip. Do we talk about? No, we already talked about that. All right. Anyway, what else we got? I'm sorry.
How much better is Wentz? How much better is Frank Wright than Doug Peterson?
Oh, infinite.
So is that just what the problem is? Is it Doug Peterson, and if they get rid of him, Carson Wentz is set free?
I think it could be a part of the solution. I mean, the GM Shuffle guys, they crack me up. They talk about how I forget, they use some sort of war reference, but they talk about how Doug Peterson has more guys on his offensive staff than so and so had when they stormed whatever Normandy or whatever, and how there's no organization, there's no identity, and yeah, Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz at least sometimes looks like. It is probably bad. He's sort of trying to put it all on himself, and maybe that's why he's rushing the ball so much this year. Is he's trying to do everything he can to show that he can still be. He was an elite quarterback for a year, but are you really an elite quarterback if you only do it for a year? I mean, Kaepernick did it for a year. Who else has done it for a year?
Kaepernick did it for about 2 years, but I'll digress on that. It's a little touchy. Nick Foles did it for a year. There's some quarterbacks who are just 1 year wonders. Maybe Teddy Bridgewater. Who knows?
RG3.
RG3, RIP RG3. His knees, man. Bless the knees. Like I said, if you play on FedEx Field, it's going to consume a knee a year. And poor Joe Burrow, he had to be the guy this time on FedEx Field. They have something wrong with that turf on FedEx Field because so many knee injuries are suffered there. Alex Smith, RG3 multiple times. And, it's just, I think it has to do with their field care. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's just a statement to make because it's so many injuries happen there.
And it's Washington. Would you be surprised that they just don't even take care of it?
No, It's
Like,
the
you
worst
don't even take
franchise.
care of their players. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know who had a good game this week for a quarterback is Kirk Cousins. Now is the time to start selling him if you have him in dynasty leagues. It's a time to buy because someone just lost Joe Burrow. So I bought Kirk Cousins. If I've lost Joe Burrow, I've usually gone after Kirk Cousins or Carson Wentz because Carson Wentz is a good quarterback to buy low right now.
Yep.
I really like what Kirk Cousins is doing. Justin Jefferson had 59 snaps to 64 snaps. He has a huge amount of snaps in that offense, and he's gotten production. He had another touchdown this week on I think it was a long touchdown, like 30-something yards. And he's just schooling people, man. And Adam Thielen, too. Adam Thielen had I think he had a nice performance, 2-touchdown game.
Another one.
But the Dallas Cowboys ended up winning. Don't know really how that happens, but Dalton Schultz, I guess, puts that on the.
This was my thought of the week for Memphis because we talked about we were sort of on Minnesota last week if that number got to 6 or 6.5 and it never did. But if we go back 3 months, only 3 months, right? We're still in November. We go back 3 months. This Cowboys team was favorite in the East, and everybody's talking about Dalton was a great insurance policy for Dak. He's only so far removed from being a playoff caliber quarterback. How quick should we be to forget thoughts because that stuff matters. All of that information we felt or thought about a team in the summer still matters, but how much does it still matter? So is this going to be the new trend for the Cowboys going forward, or was it, hey, the Cowboys had 2 weeks to finally prepare and get organized a bit, and now that they're going to be playing weekly again, is for lack of a better description, will that you can't prepare 2 weeks for every game. So
No, and Tony Pollard had a really nice game, putting up some pretty big numbers despite having a lower snap percentage than Zeke. He's my waiver wire ad from that game if you're in redraft. It's Tony Pollard. He's a receiving back from Memphis. I really like Memphis running backs. They're really good in the NFL. Darrell Henderson's playing tonight. I'm not sure how he's doing, but probably pretty rough against the Tampa Bay defense.
Yeah, it is. He's got 6 carries for 6 yards, but nobody's done anything on the ground in that game.
Of course. Let's talk about Henry Ruggs, man. Henry Ruggs drafted 12th overall before CeeDee Lamb, before Jerry Jeudy, before Justin Jefferson, before T. Higgins, before Darnell Mooney, before
Brendan Ayuk.
What is Oakland doing, man? What happened there? Is that just not the biggest bust in the draft overall?
I mean, what is it with they're Las Vegas now, but what is it with the Raiders just insisting on drafting the speedy receivers early? I mean, I won money on that when I bet that it would go either Ruggs Judy Lamb or Ruggs Lamb Judy, and easy money. That was 19-1.
I think Rager would be a better wide receiver for them there right now than Henry Ruggs. They're lacking a good wide receiver in that offense. And we've seen Nelson Aguilar step up to be the Henry Ruggs kind of guy that they wanted Henry Ruggs to be. It's kind of funny to see because I've started Nelson Aguilar the last couple of weeks, and he's been so productive for fantasy as a slot wide receiver. He is what we've needed from an Oakland wide receiver, and it's Nelson Aguilar, the biggest bust from his draft class. And, he's not a bust anymore because he was a pure slot guy being used wrong in the Philadelphia offense.
He's been freed from Doug Peterson. And Derek Carr is slinging it downfield.
He is. He looks good.
Yeah, it's quite the revival. That Raiders team is something right now. They're definitely rebranding themselves nicely under John Gruden.
Yeah, Ruggs is averaging 1.6 catches per game, so that means he can be dropped in a redraft. Not worth owning.
Judy's averaging 10 targets per game over the last 4 games or something stupid like that.
Drew Lock's also averaging 3 interceptions a game.
Yeah, something like that.
He's not doing too well. But the owner GM, I think it's just GM. Does not want to look bad, so he's going to continue to roll with Drew Lock, I think, which is going to be quite funny to see if they continue to roll Drew Lock out there next year. Because I don't think he's the guy there overall. I don't think he's going to win you a Super Bowl.
Yeah, I don't like saying it because I got him. Hey, Matt, Dynasty started this offseason. FFPC, you're only allowed to draft 3 quarterbacks. I didn't like taking any of the ones I did, and here's the 3 I took: Locke, Jimmy G, and Minshew. That's why. And then I Trubisky was a waiver, and so I bought Trubisky with my fab pre-week 1, and then that's more or less why I traded Hawk for Carson Wentz, because I felt like I needed at least some. So those are my 5 quarterbacks that I'm going to be carrying into the offseason. I have not won a game because that's Barkley, AJ Brown, DJ Chark. Oh my God.
Oh man. And DJ Chark was a big loser this week. He did not put up like any points for fantasy production. He's a good dynasty buy low right now because they're gonna get a quarterback like Justin Fields.
Yeah.
And he's gonna need a wide receiver 1, and that's DJ Chark. They already have him. Go get DJ Chark now while he doesn't really have a quarterback, and expect big returns from him.
That's why you're getting Mims too. Like, get Mims now because he could be tied to Trevor Lawrence for the next 4 or 5 years.
Until the
longer.
Jets bring in Kenny Golladay in the offseason, and Kenny Golladay goes and signs a huge contract with them. And it's fantasy magic for Trevor Lawrence. But I just want to say that the Kenny Golladay injury is something that's very intriguing to me because this has to be soft tissue if he's not playing still.
Yeah, and I haven't found anything other than it's just his hip.
Yeah, a hip flexor.
Oh, they have given
they haven't said. They just said hip, but people have speculated it's a hip flexor, which is what a 2-week injury.
You never know with severity. Hip flexor, hip flexor is the muscle
away.
It's the muscle on the front of your hip, and when you extend your hip, as in like striding or sprinting, it's being stretched. So that one can. All the muscles of the legs are important for sprinting, but that would really hamper a guy who's trying to get separation.
Saying, for a guy who doesn't have a lot of money coming in the next year because he needs to sign a contract, it's pretty smart not to come back and play on an injury. So he's going to take the time he needs to get fully healthy before he comes back, in my belief.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, these guys are out here working. We call it play sometimes, but they're out here working. If I'm, if he's only got a chance to sign one more contract, because he is one of those older rookies, right?
Like he's 26 or 27.
Yeah, and he's still on his rookie deal. Get that cheddar. Lock it up.
And get out of Detroit.
Yeah, seriously. Unless they can get somebody good in there. Who are they? Patricia can't be there for any longer than week 17.
Fire Patricia. He's our tank master. He's going to lead us to maybe one more win, and it's going to be against some obscure team like the Green Bay Packers, and we're going to beat them somehow, and it's going to be nice to see, but we're not going to win any more games. Detroit Lions are awful. Their team is awful. DeAndre Swift is the life source of that team, and they did not play him or start him until week 10 in the NFL. That's ridiculous to me. But I don't. Even Adrian Peterson said, I don't know why he wasn't starting 2 to 3 weeks before.
Isn't that crazy?
Before they started him.
Adrian Peterson, who knows, is not that far removed from being like the NFL running back god. Like, not to use that term loosely or outside of a church. Sorry, I'm not very spiritual, but I digress. For Adrian Peterson, a guy who was that guy, who these guys they've been the best in their universe for so long to be like, I don't know why that guy wasn't starting over me. Like, this is one of the best to ever do it. There's got to be something going on with the talent evaluation or who's in charge of making what decisions. Yeah.
It's definitely who's S in my D right now for Matt Patricia He's that kind of guy. He needs his pole to be polished if you want to play for him. So if you know what I mean. But he's definitely a very stubborn head coach. He likes to run it his way, and if it's not his way, it's not the right way. He's like
Yeah.
he's like Gordon Ramsay, but not good. He just goes in and yells at people, and he
Like,
has no respect for anything.
does that make him Guy Fieri? Like, is Guy Fieri not good? I don't know. I don't watch.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, Guy Fieri's a very good cook.
Okay.
But it's like he's basically Guy Fieri because he's got the little chub on his belly.
There you go.
I like that one. But he just isn't. He's not a good coach. So fire Matt Patricia, get a good offensive minded coach like Joe Brady in there. You just saw Joe Brady torture defense with PJ Walker from the XFL. You made Matt Patricia look like an XFL head coach instead of NFL head coach. It was embarrassing. I don't know what more you can do to get fired.
Yeah. Even doing some really bad things off the field doesn't even do it these days. But
yeah,
let's move on. Let's we're already rolling 30 minutes. Everybody's probably looking ahead to waivers tomorrow or the night after. You've touched on a bunch already. Any others? I know we've got some. Kiki Kuti had a touchdown this week, as I think both Kenny Stills and Randall Cobb went down. I think Cobb might have already been ruled out for this Thursday game. Yes, Randall Cobb to miss time. Let's see, Kenny Stills.
Alan Lazard is my waiver wire target. He came back from injury. If he can get a more snap share, MVS had a really nice week. He popped off, but he had a drop as well. But he had a good week for fantasy. So Alan Lazard would be a name to add.
Alan Lazard for sure. Kiki QT too. It looks like Stills and Cobb both might miss time, so it's going to be Brandon Cooks, and then who's it after that?
Jalen Guyton from LA Chargers. He played 69 snaps of the 82 snaps total on offense. He's a name to add, I think, because he's got the deep shot potential. If he's still available on your waivers for a redraft league, he's someone that you should look for in a deep league. If for some reason Brashad Perriman is on waivers, you should pick him up. He's gotten 59 snaps total of the Jets. That's not right. It should be 63 snaps. So he really outplayed almost everyone on that offense in terms of snaps. So I just like to look at snaps, and that gives you the most potential. Jakeem Grant played 55 snaps for the Miami Dolphins. He's a good flex add, I think. Jakeem Grant is a wide receiver. He's shifty. He makes space. So if Tua is still the quarterback going forward, I'd continue to play Jakeem Grant. What do you think about Jakeem Grant?
I like that. He's been on my DFS radar the past few weeks since Preston Williams went down, as has Nelson Aguilar. He's criminally undervalued right now. And like my DFS strategy is like I feel like any given week there's 3 or 4 wide receivers who you're like, really? They did that? So I'm just trying to hit on those. Yeah, exactly. Curtis Samuel, Tim Patrick, Nelson Aguilar.
Dallas Goedert being the tight end for this week.
Yeah.
Travis Fulgham, he's declined. What's happened with him recently? He's getting the targets, but he's not getting the receptions. It's sad to see because Fulgham was a fan favorite of mine to start the season.
I'll chalk up the Browns game for Carson Wentz. That was some pretty shit weather, and the Browns were in his face most of the game. They got Seahawks at home on Monday night.
Oh, pretty so that's much a must start.
Well, and every team has been able to put up points on the Seahawks. So if the Eagle but no, I actually like the Seahawks in this game because the Seahawks are coming off of a Thursday night game, so they're getting the extra rest, extra prep. I don't know, play it what you will, but the next 2 weeks, so we got Seahawks, and we just saw what the 38 or 39-year-old or 40-year-old Phillip Rivers did to the Packers. That's the Eagles are at the Packers the following week. So really, I think those 2 weeks are going to tell us. And Okay, so Rager's healthy, Fulgham's healthy, Goddard's healthy. I think did Ertz play this week? Miles
No.
Sanders Ertz didn't play. Sanders played. This is probably as good as it's going to get for Carson Wentz's supporting staff or supporting cast this
Yeah.
season. So it's if we don't see anything good out of the Eagles in the next 2 weeks, then something's got to change. Whether it's I don't think Jalen Hurts is the answer. I think they're going to test it at some point, but they're still first place in the NFC East, so you can't really just stick around with that lead.
No, and Jalen Hurts is not better than Carson Wentz at quarterback. I'm sorry, Jalen Hurts. Carson Wentz is clearly superior. It's just frustration if they play him.
Yeah.
Because what they could have been is the team that's winning the NFC least, the worst division in football, and they're not going to be winning it. And it looks like maybe the Cowboys will win it.
Ever.
Yeah.
Memphis likes the Giants have some steam. Though I looked at their schedule and it's
Giants have a terrible schedule going forward.
Yeah, they have 3 wins right now. 5 might be what they finished because they got. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the Eagles still. They got the Bengals. Okay, that should be a win. I like that. I like that this week. Then they have the Seahawks in Seattle. Then they come back home. They play the Cardinals. Then they play the Browns at home. Probably a loss.
That's a W. Yeah. Browns are 6-3 this year, or whatever they are at 7-3.
Yeah, but the last 3 weeks they've been. They barely edged out Houston in that terribly played game, and then they finish with the Ravens, and then the Cowboys.
Who's worth buying right now, just because if you're super flex leagues, is Baker Mayfield. Just because he was so accurate in college, and he's had some rib injuries this season, and we've seen what rib injuries do to quarterbacks. They make them less accurate. Maybe they're just conserving Baker, doing a run-heavy offense. But, he's a good person to go buy for a 2021 second, and that's it. That's like all you need to buy him for most owners. They'll sell him to you for that. He's really cheap. So if you need a quarterback for next year, he could be that guy. But he's not going to get you much this year. He's just not been as accurate as he was in college. But that should come back, if he gets healthy. Because he does not look healthy.
No, he was slinging it downfield a bit yesterday. So I wonder if he's on the cusp there, because we're not too far removed from him having some big weeks.
Mm-hmm.
The Cowboys. Yeah.
Another guy to buy is Kirk Cousins, because he's going to play himself out of quarterback contention for the Minnesota Vikings. They're going to be stuck with Kirk Cousins for another year. If you buy Kirk Cousins now, you're getting another year of production from a quarterback for a cheap value. I got him today for Travis Fulgham and tight end from the Jonnu Smith. Travis Fulgham and Jonnu Smith for Kirk Cousins. So that's how much Kirk Cousins cost me, and I lost Joe Burrow. So needed a quarterback right away. Did not want to trade Joe Burrow. Got myself a quarterback to go with Kyler Murray. So, it's just a stopgap. Yeah. So how can you plug the hole from once that injury happens to your team? You got to trade. That's really all there is to it.
I like it.
But yeah, I think that's it for us for the week. Our MRI report is done, and we did some little coffee talk for you guys. Brought to you unofficially by Starbucks.
And Essential.
Yep, Essential water, the best water from the airport you can get. But yeah, that's it. So have a good one, guys.